Here's what you need to know.
Game 5 of the World Series with Philadelphia hosting Houston comes up at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox TV. Noah Syndergaard against Houston's Justin Verlander. Series tied at 2 after the Phillies were no-hit last night. The series is off tomorrow. In the NFL, we have Philadelphia at Houston, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. The Philadelphia Eagles are 7-0 this year. Houston's 1-5-1, and according to NFL Network, Texans wide receiver Brandon Cooks is out tonight after he was not traded by Tuesday's deadline. Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas will likely miss the rest of the season. He'll have toe surgery. New Orleans hosts Baltimore on Monday night. Ravens wide receiver Rashad Bateman is out for the year after foot surgery. The Ravens did recently sign veteran wideout Deshaun Jackson. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor missed practice again with an ankle injury. Just 2 NBA games tonight, and the 76ers' James Harden reportedly could miss a month with a foot injury. I'm Steve DeSager.
Do you know who this is?
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome back, hour 2 on a Thursday, or at least I'm pretty sure it's Thursday. The days blend together and you begin to forget a little bit. I know it's November 3rd because I've had to type that out about 7 times today. It's like how, when you're in school or if you work in a job where you type the date out a lot and you write it down, you tend to remember the date a lot better, but if you're just out and about and, you're just doing work, maybe you're on vacation, you're like, oh, what day of the week is it? What's the date of the month? Like, I don't know. But since I write down the date, I usually know it, but remembering the days of the week can be tricky for me sometimes. You'd think I'd know because I have to say it every day on the show. But congratulations to Mark. He's the one who correctly answered the trivia question that we gave at the very end of last hour. The question was, what was the first year that New Mexico and Utah State played? And the answer is December 1st, 1951. Granted, I didn't ask for the exact date. I just asked for the year. And Mark correctly answered 1951. So he won 2 tickets to go see Utah State play New Mexico this Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff. For those of you who maybe can't make the game or want to listen to some pregame beforehand, we've got the game day starting at 12. Al Lewis on that, and then obviously we got the post game immediately after it ends. You can call in, text in, and they'll have the whole post game for you, and including post game audio, assuming I don't mess that up, because it's my responsibility to get them post game audio. But me and Eric, we recorded our predictions, a segment of us talking about who we think is going to win, what we think the score is going to be. So go ahead, if you want to text in your score predictions. I'll read those out starting kind of the next segment once we get through this with me and Eric. So I'll go ahead and play that really quick, but you can text in your score predictions at 435-339-0321. We'll talk about it after this plays.
The Utah State Aggies take on New Mexico Saturday, 1:30 kickoff in the stadium on Merlin Olsen Field. CBS Sports Network has a national coverage, and pregame coverage for us will begin at noon here on The Fan and on KVNU with Game Day, with Al Lewis and Craig Hislop and others. But now it's time for Jason and I to give our own predictions and how we think things might play out on Saturday afternoon. Now, weather could be an interesting factor in this game. I know it's been pretty yucky for most of this week and going into the weekend, but Saturday, what? I have to double check what the weather's supposed to look like on Saturday again.
Remember, it's going to be a little colder and a little wet, if I remember correctly. Of course, when I saw the weather forecast, it was still like more than a week out. So it may have changed a little bit since I saw it.
Yeah, it looks like there's a pretty good chance there's going to be some cold weather and wet. Could be rain mixed with snow. And I think that's important to play into our predictions because that may affect how the game gets called, more so for Utah State than New Mexico. I think New Mexico is who they are no matter what. And that is that they're a triple option team. They're going to run the ball a lot. There may be some difference with who their quarterback is. One quarterback is better at executing the option and running the ball versus another who tends to pass it a little bit more. But by and large, New Mexico is who they are, and that is that they're going to try to run the ball a lot. And so that Utah State defense has to be keen on those option runs. And as Coach said earlier this week, it would be a mistake to assume that New Mexico's triple option is similar to Air Force triple option.
Yeah, it's not. There's obviously different keys and different things you do. Just simply running, the veer from the shotgun is a lot different than Air Force's, more traditional under center, service academy style option. So there's obviously differences with New Mexico, and just looking at the numbers, they pass the ball a little over 20 times a game, which that ranks 127th, so it's a lot less, in being a triple option offense, but it's nearly 3 times as much as Air Force, who only pass the ball like 7 times a game. So they're going to at least throw the ball, and the defense is going to have to be honest. And it does make it a little more complicated because you still have to deal with the complicated, run option defense.
Right, and that's the thing that that secondary always has to be aware of is that run. All of a sudden, here's a pass play, and you've been sucking up to help on run defense, and then, oh my gosh, the receiver got behind us, and they get you for a deep pass.
Yeah, at least it won't feel like a trick play in this game because, like I said, it's 1 out of every 3 plays ish. If they're running 70 plays ish, then I guess 2 out of every 7 plays is a pass play. So it's not quite the same as Air Force, who will run the ball 60 times and pass 5 times.
But Miles Kendrick, just looking at the quarterback situation at New Mexico, he has thrown only 3 touchdowns. He has thrown 7 interceptions and has been sacked 24 times. Justin Holiday has thrown no touchdowns, 1 interception, and has been sacked 4 times.
Yeah. And Holiday started the last game, so that was kind of his first, volume action. He's appeared in, 3 games now. But in the last game, he was like 8 of 16. He's 9 of 20 on the season, so that gives you an idea how much he was passing before. Holiday can certainly run. If you exclude the sacks, I think he had 61 yards on 8 carries. So, dude can make some plays with his legs. Obviously, Kendrick, I have not tried to adjust his rushing yards for sacks because without that many sacks, he's got 76 official rushes, that's including the sacks, for 148 yards. Haven't done the math on how good of a runner he is because, again, college football is supremely stupid in how they count their sacks as far as lost yardage for the offense.
Yeah, that's so he clearly has gained more yards than what his rushing yards actually look like.
Yeah,
he sacked 24 times. I mean, that tells me that offensive front for New Mexico really isn't that strong.
Yeah, and Kendrick has 3 rushing touchdowns. Tells you the guy can gain some yards. But I mean, it was like when Utah State sacked the poor San Jose State quarterback like 13 times. Dude nearly had a negative 100 rushing yards.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, the quarterback position for them is a little bit up in the air here still, but there is a dynamic possibility, maybe we'll put it that way, that it's that Kendrick or even Holiday can get out and run. Both have pretty explosive runs on the year so far. Kendrick's longest run was for 26 yards. Holiday had one for 35. Both of them had found the end zone with their feet. So that defensive front for Utah State, that's going to be the real key in this game for me, maintaining that triple option attack, but also getting to the quarterback and getting them off schedule and getting them off time.
Yeah, especially if Utah State jumps ahead a little bit, it might force New Mexico to pass a little bit more. And right now, as far as the quarterback, it feels like Justin Holiday is going to be the one. I know he was named the starter, before their last game against Fresno State, and supposedly it was for the rest of the season. That was the report. That could change. Kendrick did come in and throw a pass against Fresno State. Obviously, Kendrick is still healthy, so he's still an option if Holiday ends up not doing well. So you'd expect Holiday to be the guy to walk out there on that first series, but it is possible for Kendrick to come back out if things go absolutely awful for the offense, especially in the pass game, whatever pass game they try and do.
This game on Saturday for Utah State, for me, comes down to that defensive front for the Aggies, but it also comes down to the defensive front for New Mexico. That's an aggressive defense under Rocky Long that will pressure and pressure and pressure and come after you. Cody Moon is their linebacker. He's got 60 tackles on the year, but he's got 3.5 sacks as well. So somebody who can get around and come up through and really make your life difficult as a quarterback if you're not careful, keeping your eye on an aggressive, pressuring linebacker in Cody Moon.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot of running in this game, so obviously there is a big reason why the front sevens of both of these teams, or I guess maybe a front six for New Mexico, because I think they run a 3-3 front. Of course, Utah State kind of does that too with their striker position. I don't know.
Right.
Defenses don't have front sevens anymore because the base packages tend to be more of the what we used to call nickel.
Right.
And that's the base package now. But, with it being cold and wet, and with neither team really having super strong passing attacks, neither of these teams are great at passing the ball. Their strength is in the run game. And so that's why I don't think weather's going to have that much of an impact on this game. It can impact the Aggies more because they will try and pass the ball more, especially getting Laga back. They'll have a little more in terms of their offensive playbook in the passing attack. But still, this is a team that's going to run the ball a lot. Cooper Laga, his first game, he ran the ball 20 times. He's going to run the ball a lot in this. I don't know, maybe they might try and, not run him a ton because of the concussion, but he is 2 weeks out from that. So he's supposedly fully healthy. So I think they'll try and run him some. They'll run Calvin Tyler a lot. And so this is going to be a game where both teams run the ball a lot. If we have a combined 250 passing yards, I might be surprised.
Well, actually, it's going to be more like 3 weeks out, considering he didn't start 2 weeks ago. Then they had the bye week, and now he's back on the field this Saturday. So a lot of time between that. And one of the things, too, that we heard earlier this week was about players coming back, getting guys back from injury, and that's going to be a key for Utah State. I think it's going to be big to have Byron Vaughn's back. And Daniel Grishik, who went out in the Wyoming game, he should be back. And Alo, he should be back. So there's a lot of guys who were stretched on that Utah State defense because of injuries, but a lot of these guys are coming back, and I think they're going to play a big role in making life difficult for the Lobos and getting after them and trying to slow them down, getting them off the field.
Yeah, especially you want these experienced defensive ends, defensive linemen to be there for this triple option, because that's where if you have great defensive ends who make plays, that can shut down the triple option. The one question as far as guys coming back, at least that will come back this season, is MJ Tafisi, where he was, Anderson said he was day-to-day. This was on Monday is when he said that. Wasn't sure if he's going to be back this week, and even at one point was like saying he's not sure if he's going to come back at all. I think Tafisi will come back this season. It would take quite the setback for him to be out for the year, I think. But I'd be surprised if we saw Tafisi out there this week. If he is, that'll be a big help. He's been great tackler. He's been in on a lot of plays, and he provides more veteran leadership. Part of what went wrong against Wyoming is you had a bunch of young guys who couldn't do their jobs. Tafisi is experienced, and he knows how to do his job, and he'll be able to do it. Whereas the young guys, they haven't had that development yet to reach their full potential where they will be able to make those plays at some point in their careers at Utah State.
Yeah, before the season, we talked about the linebacker position being one that concerned us the most, not just because of who was there, but because of the lack of depth. If any one of those guys got hurt, then it was, you're really going young and inexperienced. And we've, through most of the season, that hasn't been an issue. And A.J. Vongpachan and MJ Tafisi have been dynamic. They've been awesome. They've been one of the best linebacker duos in the conference, ranking up there with the most in tackles and influence in games defensively. And then when they go out, then you start to see just the difference there. But those those young guys are getting some reps, getting experience, certainly a lot of time in practice to get ready. So we'll see if they get rotated in. And, one of them may be playing anyway if MJ's not able to go on Saturday.
Yeah, so and even if Tafisi is back, they may try and limit his snaps a little bit, because if he's this close to not playing, then you don't want to be playing him full volume of snaps. So they will be probably rotating in. And I don't know how Kaleo Neves might factor in, where I don't know if he plays, if they're running like a single linebacker, say, a dime package or whatnot. Maybe if Neves can fill in. Again, I haven't looked to see how their formations work, see if Neves is still in on those dime packages, but maybe he could help out a little bit, take some extra snaps. But yeah, they will have to rotate to some young guys.
For Utah State offensively, just keeping an eye on and being able to protect Cooper Legas and keeping an eye on those dynamic linebackers that they have. As I mentioned, Porter. Not Porter. Moon, Cody Moon, with 60 tackles on the year, 3.5 sacks. His other teammate there at linebacker position, Rico Hanna, 40 tackles. He's got 3 sacks on the year. And they've got a dynamic defensive end in Justin Harris, who he has 3.5 sacks on the season as well. And we know that Rocky Long will try to pressure you from different parts of the field. So sometimes it could be a safety coming up and applying that pressure and coming off the backside that is unexpected.
Yeah, that's where you'd hope a little bit more experience from Legas would help, whereas a guy like Bishop Davenport ended up being blindsided by a backside, corner blitzing. Maybe Legas will see that. And he also has the athleticism to escape things like that, and that could be a big factor here. Is not so much Cooper Legas designed runs, but scrambles. He's shown the ability to make plays with his legs, get outside the pocket, and either scramble, or he's shown the ability to throw when he gets outside the pocket. He's made some big throws on the run after he was flushed out of the pocket. So I think Legas' legs are going to be huge in this game. Probably more so than his arm, again, because passing may be suspect depending on how conditions are down on the field.
Yeah, and with that 3-3 stacked defense that Mexico operates, they're going to make it difficult for quarterbacks to pass on them because they're going to muck it up in the backfield and try to take away options in your passing game. And so they're putting a lot of faith in their defensive ends and their linebackers to do their work to get to the quarterback. So if you can seal them and create those running lanes, then I think that's one of the real big keys for Utah State to sustain drives and to eventually find pay dirt, because they will make it tough to pass on them. But they don't have as many guys in the box, so to speak, to try to make it tough for you to run on them.
And so here's the thing: if Utah State can, win the battle up front on their offensive line, they've had games where they perform really well, and if they do that in this game, then game over, because Utah State will run the ball at will. And I think perhaps the big key is the fact that in certain sets, if you have a QB designed run, Utah State can have 7 blockers against a 6-man front. Obviously, there's going to be a defensive back roaming around to be kind of a 7th man in the box. But you have that advantage where you have potentially 7 blockers, a 5 offensive lineman, a tight end who's going to be in the box pretty much most plays for Utah State, and then a running back who can kind of basically play the role of a fullback, and you get Legas back there and run it, and you have 7 blockers. Or even on a designed, running back run, it's still 6 blockers. 2-6 or 6.5 guys in the box. So that could be a big thing for Utah State, where if they're able to win those battles, then it's game over, more so than usual.
Yeah, so let's come down to prediction time. We're already talking about how we think things will play out for Utah State and New Mexico, but what about the score? How's this game going to play out, and what's the final score going to be? Will Utah State get the victory? Will they move to 3 wins in conference play and get a little bit closer to being bowl eligible, or will New Mexico play spoiler on Merlin Olsen Field? So how do you see the score playing out, Jason?
So I think with injuries on defense, Utah State's not going to play its best defensive game. I don't think Tafisi's going to be in there, or at least be in there a lot. So that'll hurt their experience, hurt their ability to effectively shut down New Mexico's offense. It's certainly possible, because several teams have held New Mexico to like 9 points or things like that. Actually, the last couple weeks, they've only scored 9 points a game. against not spectacular teams in New Mexico State and Fresno State. But I think with Utah State not being elite on defense, missing some players, I think New Mexico's probably going to get to around 20 points. So that's my score prediction on that end. I think Utah State on offense, I think they'll do fine. I don't think the weather is going to impact them too much. They'll run the ball effectively. They'll do just fine there. They'll pass the ball well enough, with Lega coming back in. He'll provide a boost there. So I think Utah State will get around 30. So my final score prediction is actually going to be 34-20 for Utah State.
Okay. The Las Vegas line, just for those who may be curious about such things, has Utah State beating New Mexico by 16.5 points, the over-under at 43.5. So you would take the over, but New Mexico would cover.
Yeah.
So for me, I've got a palindrome score. So I think that New Mexico, considering the weather, I think both teams won't score quite as much. So I would take the overall under on the overall point total. But I've got Utah State at 31 and New Mexico at 13. So I think that New Mexico, and I think you accurately depicted it, will be able to move the ball a little bit against Utah State's defense, which is a little bit thin at some key positions. But in the end, I think they'll kick more field goals than they'll get touchdowns. And then I think Utah State with Cooper Lega under center will get back on track offensively. But considering the weather and that New Mexico pressure defense, I think 31 is pretty accurate. I mean, you're pretty close. You're at 34. I'm at 31. But I think Utah State wins this one 31-13. They get to, 3 wins in conference play. And that would be, 4 wins overall for the Aggies. Get them to 4-5, get them close to 500, get them back on track after a tough loss 2 weeks ago at Wyoming.
Yeah, certainly. This team is pretty much desperate. I can't remember if Anderson used the word desperate to be bowl eligible. I think he did. That's their goal now. A lot of other goals have been pushed out the window. They can't achieve them on their own, and so the one thing they can control is winning 3 out of the next 4 to get bowl eligible. So that's their new main primary goal.
435-339-0321. What's your score prediction for Utah State hosting New Mexico on Saturday? Pre-game coverage for us will start at noon here on The Fan with KVNU Game Day and kick off at 1:30. If you can't make it to the game, it will be on CBS Sports Network. We're going to take a quick timeout. More coming up next here on 106.9 The Fan.
Saturday afternoon, it's a 1:30 kickoff for the Aggies versus New Mexico Lobos. This will be a military appreciation game. Get yourself prepared with Aggie camo gear from Locker 42. Aggie logo t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, jackets, blankets, and more. Locker 42 is also happy to announce new Nike sideline gear is now starting to arrive. Get your camo Aggie gear for Saturday's military appreciation game. Locker 42, and you can shop either location, the North Store at 1430 North Main, next to Little Caesars, or the flagship store at 36 South Main. Locker 42.
The Young Automotive Group is proud to announce Young Truck and Trailer Center in Cache Valley. Whether it's heavy equipment trailers, horse trailers, race car trailers, or cargo and utility trailers, we're excited to offer some of the finest trailers and flatbed work trucks to Cache Valley. Our team of experts look forward to helping you find the right truck or trailer to fit your needs, with competitive prices offered on every make and model for sale on our lot. With our extensive inventory, you'll find the best deals right here in Cache Valley. Young Truck and Trailer Center, just off Highway 89 in Logan. Think young, drive young.
For over 20 years, Aegis Home Health and Hospice has been providing health care to Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. Whatever or wherever your health care needs, Aegis' goal is to meet those needs. Aegis Home Health and Hospice core values are character, experience, and trust. Aegis, AEGIS, striving to provide the health care services you need. Aegis Home Health and Hospice. Call 723-9000 or find them at myaegis.com.
Alpine Home Medical has been around for over 25 years. Can you believe that? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent. What keeps us coming to work every day? We're passionate about caring for you. From home and bathroom safety to transportation, mobility, recovery, oxygen, sleep, and more, come into any of our 10 locations today and let us take care of you.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Are you a small business owner? Who's your bank? This is Bruce Rigby. I want to invite you to bank with us at Cache Valley Bank. We specialize in helping small business, and we have great people. That's the Cache Valley Bank difference. Decisions made locally, without all the red tape, by people who care and know how to help small business. Cache Valley Bank, growing, expanding, and proud to have our roots firmly planted in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Sunday on Compass Media Networks, coverage of the NFL. NFC West foes collide in the desert as the Arizona Cardinals host the Seattle Seahawks. Hi, this is Jeff Biggs. Join Bill Rosinski, Chad Brown, and myself for all the action as the first-place Seahawks go for a fourth straight win over Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, who desperately need a win. It's the Seahawks and the Cardinals. If it's the NFL, it's right here.
Sunday afternoon at 1:30 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the full court press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Welcome back, Full Court Press, second hour already in progress. Jason Walker with you here. Eric Frandsen is unfortunately in St. George. If you're wondering why you were hearing Eric Frandsen just a moment ago, if you just joined the show, it's because we pre-recorded that yesterday. So luckily nothing extreme happened to maybe alter the landscape of this game since we recorded that. But just to get some score predictions, I believe Eric had 31-13, and I had 34-20. Obviously, I have a lot more high-scoring game. wasn't really taking into account weather. I mean, I knew it was going to be bad weather, and I deliberately said I didn't think it was going to be that high-scoring. Some of you with some lower scoring predictions. For instance, 9315 says USU 24, New Mexico 3. And that's going to be a low-scoring game. If the weather forces, turnovers and, kills drives, or both teams just struggle on offense, that could happen. I just don't see Utah State holding New Mexico to just 3 points. If they were full strength on defense, that'd be a possibility. But you just never know how things are going to go. 2603. He actually comes a lot closer to my prediction. He predicts. He says, I predict 34-18. Certainly be an interesting score there, 18. But, me and him both have Utah State scoring 34 points. I have Utah State scoring 20, so we're pretty similar there. 5879 says 37-7 Utah State. And if you want to text in your score predictions, you can text in 435-339-0321. How do you think the game's going to go? What do you think the score will be? Pretty optimistic about a Utah State win here for most people. 7854 says, thin defensive positioning will cause problems for the Aggies. Lobos will run, but in the long run, Aggies pull it out 27-23. And that's kind of similar to what I was saying in our predictions. I feel like, having a thin defense will lead to New Mexico scoring a few more points. I have them at 20. I think Utah State's offense will do a little bit better than 27 points, but certainly it's possible. I think 34 could be kind of on the high end of this. Utah State this season is just not the kind of team that's going to be able to put 40 points on the board. I don't think they've done it yet this year. They've gotten into the 30s a couple of times, but this is a team that is not explosive on offense. So it's probably 20s, maybe into the 30s, as far as them. If their offense is running smoothly, which I think it will on Saturday, they should be able to get 34 points, hold New Mexico down enough to keep them to 20. And then Eric was along similar line of thing where he has them Utah State at 31 points. He was a little more optimistic about the defense for Utah State. 2787 has 17-14 for USU. Definitely thinking a low-scoring game for this. And maybe it's possible. Maybe both teams just muck things up. The defenses dominate. But I think there'll be some decent scoring. Decent scoring from both teams. Now, an interesting stat I was pointed in the direction of John Newbold, our very own Hurricane John Newbold. He pointed me to a tweet from Brett McMurphy. Kind of an interesting stat in that New Mexico currently has the longest active losing streak for games in November. New Mexico has lost 20 straight games that they've played in the month of November. The last time they won a November game was November 26th, 2016. And that was against Wyoming. New Mexico actually went 9-4 that year, that 2016 year. Lobos, they were 9-4. Utah State was 3-9. And coincidentally enough, that 2016 season, that's the last time that New Mexico has defeated the Aggies in a game. That's the most recent instance of New Mexico defeating Utah State. And it really goes to show some of the depths that New Mexico has gone to. Because, they did beat them in a year where Utah State went 3-9, but then in a year where Utah State was arguably worse than that 3-9 season. 2020, that year, Utah State goes 1-5. One of the worst teams we've probably ever seen out of Utah State. Who was that one win against? Yeah, New Mexico. Utah State, wins 41-27 in that game. Absolutely nuts. Like, when Utah State was at their worst, they still beat New Mexico these last 5 years. Granted, Utah State's had two pretty dang good years in 2018 and 2021, and in those games they blew the heck out of New Mexico. I think one of the games they scored 61 points against the Lobos. But that was 2018, and this is now. So still, Utah State's not a great team. They're only, 3-5. New Mexico's 2-6. If I'm remembering the records correctly, I'm suddenly doubting myself on that one. But Utah State, I think, is better, and I think it's going to be a comfortable win. 8-9-6-8, he gives his score prediction. Says, let's pitch a shutout. Aggies 31, Lobos 0. That's the kind of optimism I can get behind. So we'll see how Utah State goes. We'll get into a little bit more preview tomorrow as we get closer and closer to the game. What is an all-important game, because Utah State, the games against New Mexico and Hawaii, even though they're supposed to be easy, they become must-wins. Because if you don't win them, then suddenly you're tasked with defeating San Jose State and Boise State if you mess up on either of these New Mexico or Hawaii games. Already it's going to be tough enough to take one against San Jose State and Boise State. But then you have to win both just to get bowl eligible. Utah State has to win 3 of 4 to get bowl eligible. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Utah Jazz. What is a fun season. It felt like they were tanking, and I was going to be fine with the Jazz losing. Then they were doing good, and now I'm mad that they lost yesterday. But we'll talk about that next here on 106.9 The Fan.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient, not the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
We're heading into some crazy weather this winter, which means power outages. Tyler and his team at Golden Spike Electric can install a Generac automatic standby generator for your home so you can avoid issues when the power goes out. If you have one already, Golden Spike Electric can maintain your Generac automatic standby generator for you. Find them online at gsegenerators.com or call 435-257-3016. Golden Spike Electric and Generac automatic standby generators. Power you can count on.
Advanced Heating and AC, the two-time gold medal winner in Best in Northern Utah. They're teaming up with Carrier Heating and Cooling. Carrier provides you the best furnace units available. And now's the best time to buy a new unit before the weather turns Cache Valley cold. Financing options are available. Turn to the experts at Advanced Heating and Carrier. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, 752-7272. Or stop by their showroom west of DI. And online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
My name is Chris Hammond. My wife really appreciates a clean home, especially with 3 kids and 2 dogs. So when it comes to our carpets being cleaned, I always go to Daryl from ChemDry of Northern Utah. His team is quick, on time, and precise. They do a great job of making sure our home and our carpets are clean. Thank you, ChemDry of Northern Utah.
ChemDry of Northern Utah. ChemDry of Northern Utah. 435-752-6100.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends, look closer. Right in your community, there are youth who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So, look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. Every youth who walks into Covenant House gets clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So, look closer at Covenant House and help us fight youth homelessness. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back, Full Court Press. Jason Walker with you here. Going to talk some Utah Jazz now. We've talked NBA in the first hour, some of the crazy crap that's going on. I also talked high school football, previewing the upcoming matchups this Saturday that'll be played down at SUU. Ridgeline taking on Crimson Cliffs, Mountain Crest taking on Desert Hills. Now we're going to talk some Jazz because they started the season 6-2. Now they're 6-3. Yesterday they played the Dallas Mavericks. They had a lead. I think at one point they were up 61-49, I believe. 12-point lead, and that was in the third quarter. They end up falling 103-100 to the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic scores 33 points, goes 12 of 20 from the field, 7 of 10 from the free throw line. Also had 11 assists, 5 rebounds. Jazz did okay. They didn't shoot as well from 3. Lauri Markkanen goes 0 for 4 from 3 by himself. Only had 14 points, 7 rebounds. Jazz actually, I don't know, they out-rebounded the Mavericks by a little bit. Jordan Clarkson had a solid day, 22 points. Granted, he needed 20 shots to get there. Also had 8 assists. Mike Conley had 11 points. 8 assists. Colin Sexton going for 19 points on 7 of 16 shooting. So really probably what they were missing was, a little more from Lauri Markkanen, a little more from Kelly Olynyk. Get a little more from those two guys, and you probably do just fine in this game. Probably end up winning. But unfortunately, they don't. Now, of course, I was expecting the Jazz to lose a bunch of games, and now I'm mad that they lost. I was like, they should have won. They should have come away with the win. They've had a few games where they kind of blow leads late, but they've not been punished by it. They've managed to escape the problem they created by letting the other team back in. I believe they blew leads against the Pelicans and Timberwolves. And I think nearly blew a lead against the Rockets. But they've managed to escape on a number of occasions. This time they did not. It's the first time they've really been burned by their own tendency to let teams back in games despite building a solid lead. Hopefully it doesn't become the theme like it was last year. Last year, of course, this year's team is blowing like maybe a 10-point lead. Last year, the Jazz were blowing like 25-point leads. It was absurd. And that team should have done better. This team kind of has an excuse they're not supposed to be good. They're already playing with house money at this point. Though, it does kind of create a situation where you're wondering, like, all right, is this now the cliff? The point where the Jazz finally go over the edge and start playing like we were expecting them to? I don't know. And maybe the front office attempts to sabotage this good start with a couple of trades. And it's interesting because this hot start may have led to some general managers who are now looking at their team. Once the season starts and you start seeing, all these teams, how they really are, because teams are really confident in their own guys that they built over the offseason. And then once they see how it really is, oh no, this is terrible. You can have that. And the Jazz have a bunch of scorers, shooters, guys who can be really valuable on potentially contending teams. And according to reports, Shams Charania of The Athletic, among other things, he was on a show. I forget what show he was on. I might have to look this up just to clarify. He was basically talking about, the Jazz getting calls from other teams about some of their players.
They have teams calling them every day on Jordan Clarkson, on Malik Beasley. They have a list of suitors on both of those guys, I'm told. But I think you just have to ride this out. You have to see what this team looks like in 20 to 25 games. I know they're off to this crazy start that no one predicted. You have pictures of Danny Ainge looking weird, like super upset at Will Hardy. By the way, Danny Ainge loves Will Hardy, so he must have just got caught in the moment. That's his guy. I'm sure he's actually reveling in the fact that they got off to this great start. Because like you said, Michelle, I think things can trickle off. I want to see this team 20 games in, 25 games in, see their record. They can always start flipping guys closer to January if they want to.
So I believe I've traced that back to a FanDuel YouTube channel. I wanted to give proper credit to where this came from. But it was Shams talking, I believe, on FanDuel, their YouTube page. That's where I believe the clip was pulled from. And just basically saying, the Jazz are getting calls on players. Clarkson and Beasley are two valuable guys. And they could very easily trade them. And if they do, that can lead to Utah, tumbling toward being not as good. Because Clarkson's playing a big role here. I think he's averaging like 16 points a game, 5 assists. Malik Beasley's averaging, I think, like 11 points per game. Two guys who are a big part of this offense at the moment. Yeah, just double checking. So Clarkson's actually at over 17 points per game now. And Beasley is at about 11.5, 3 assists per game. Clarkson at 5.6 assists, 4.6 rebounds. So Clarkson playing very well right now, distributor and scorer. If the Jazz are looking to sabotage their own hot start, there's a very easy way to do that, where if they're getting calls on these guys, wait it, milk it out a little bit, let these teams really feel the pressure, really feel the need. Danny Ainge isn't going to rush a trade. We've very much seen that. Maybe he could have rushed the trade with Bojan Bogdanovic, who's actually doing pretty well in Detroit right now. He didn't rush the trade with Donovan Mitchell. Seemed to not rush the trade with Rudy Gobert. Certainly got a great offer. And when he got that great offer, he took it. And when he got a good offer for Donovan Mitchell, he took that. So Jazz could certainly pull up more assets, more draft picks. Maybe could milk a first rounder out of Jordan Clarkson. I don't know if they can get that out of Malik Beasley. But Jordan Clarkson, they got a first round pick out of Royce O'Neal. Maybe they can go in for Jordan Clarkson. But just to talk about some of the other picks the Jazz have, they currently own 3 first round picks for this upcoming draft, the 2023 draft. They control their own. They control the Timberwolves pick, unprotected. And then the third pick is a little complicated because they get the least favorable pick out of the Rockets, 76ers, and Nets. And we had a text come in. I'll get to this really quick before moving on. 2305. Just to clarify, he asks, what did the Jazz get from Detroit for Bogdanovich? They got Kelly Olynyk and Saban Lee, who you may know is not being on the team anymore. And I think they may have gotten cash. So they basically got Kelly Olynyk. That's why I say they kind of rushed the trade, because, Olynyk's actually been decent for the Jazz. But it wasn't great value for Bogdanovich, who's a pretty good scorer. It could be valuable for a lot of teams. They say he's doing pretty well for Detroit right now. So the Jazz could have gotten more out of Bojan. But to go back to what I was saying with the picks, the Jazz get the least favorable out of the Rockets, 76ers, and Nets. And preseason, my thoughts were at least, okay, that pick's going to be in the mid-20s. You'd think the Nets will probably make the playoffs. The 76ers are a team that's been toward the top of the Eastern Conference standings pretty much every year. So you think, okay, something in the mid-20s. The Jazz right now, they're at 26. That's where their pick is. Having a 6-3 record, their pick, if just the NBA season ended today and they did draft slots based off where the standings are now, the Jazz would pick 26th. Well, where the other 2 picks are surprising. The Minnesota Timberwolves, that pick would be 12th. It'd be a lottery pick. I was thinking that the Timberwolves were going to be, top 4 of the Western Conference. They're not doing so good at all. I believe they have a below 500 record. I think they're like 3-5 or something like that. So they're 12th. 76ers, theirs would be 15th, just outside the lottery. The last pick before being in the lottery. And the 76ers are about to be without James Harden for a month. So Utah's 2 other picks are doing very well. And I guess I should specify that the 76ers pick, that's the one the Jazz would get based off the way things currently are. So I said they get the worst pick of the Rockets, Nets, and the 76ers. The 76ers at 15th are the least favorable of those 3 picks, because the Rockets right now, they're tied for the worst record, so they're at number 1. And the Nets are like 5th, I think. They're in the high lottery too. Of course, they don't even own their pick. I think they owe it to somebody else. So they're in trouble. So right now, if the season ended today, the 3 Jazz first rounders would be 12th, 15th, and 26th. Lottery results pending, so obviously that 12th could theoretically jump up. So it's pretty insane. 2305 texting again. It says, I think the Jazz need to make a deal sometime this year with the Lakers because they appear to be struggling. That would be a good pick if they could get a draft pick from them. And yeah, right now the 2 draft picks, the first rounders that LA can deal, are LA's own 2027 first rounder and 2029. Those are the 2 that they're allowed to trade legally. And those could be very valuable picks because the Lakers have mortgaged their entire future to have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook. And that bet has gone horribly wrong. And I think the Jazz should trade. If I was the Jazz, I'd love to see them trade for Russell Westbrook and get a first-rounder in return. I think the Lakers are adamant that they're not going to give up a first-round pick for Russell Westbrook. At least at the moment, they're adamant about that. We'll see if that resolve weakens, because they know how valuable those 2027, 2029 picks are. They know everyone wants them, because everyone knows the Lakers aren't going to be good those years, and the Lakers do not want to give up those picks just to get rid of Russell Westbrook. Maybe bring somebody else in. So I'd like to see the Jazz try and manage to make a trade. Send a veteran shooter. Send a Jordan Clarkson to L.A. Send a Malik Beasley to L.A. Get Russell Westbrook in return. Get a first-round pick. Buy out Russell Westbrook. I do not want to see him in a Jazz jersey. The only thing I want him to be involved in is a trade to Utah, get cut, go somewhere else. So that's what I'd like to see from the Jazz. But I don't think it's going to happen. The Lakers just seem too hesitant to deal one of those firsts. And rightly so. Smartly so. They're smart to not trade them. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll close out the hour. A little more Jazz. A little bit of Utah State basketball talk as we close out the show. More next.
Evan McMullin says he's independent. The Democrat Party knows he's not.
Cheers rang loud after Utah Democrats reached a decision
to join Evan McMullin.
Democrats chose to back him. Why are Biden's allies pulling out all the stops to elect McMullin? Because he'd do their bidding in the Senate. Conservatives know he's a Democrat in disguise, but sometimes his mask slips. His positions on issues match the Democrat platform. He wants to weaken the filibuster, backed Biden's radical Supreme Court nominee, attacked police budgets, supported reckless spending, more debt. He's just another Biden liberal, even campaigned to make him president.
I plan to cast my vote for Joe. Imagine the America we can have.
Imagine the damage after 2 more years of a Democrat Senate giving Biden free reign. Utah can stop him if we stop McMullin first. Crypto Freedom PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising. Paid for by Crypto Freedom PAC. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. 202-971-1316.
Sunday on Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL, the NFC South leading Atlanta Falcons host the Los Angeles Chargers in a Week 9 cross-conference matchup. Hi, this is Chris Carino. Join Brian Baldinger and me for all the action as Marcus Mariota and the surging Falcons look to outduel Justin Herbert and the rested Chargers. It's the Falcons and the Chargers. If it's the NFL, it's right here.
Sunday at 10:30 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
It's that first kiss, that moment in time.
This is Jarek from Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Everyone knows us as an engagement ring store, but not everyone knows about everything else we do. Custom design, our in-house laser jewelry repair. We offer fashion jewelry, charm bracelets, necklaces, earrings, birthstone jewelry, watches. We love people to just look and make a wish list. Stop in and say hi.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
The Elements Restaurant is serving a plated Thanksgiving dinner this year with all the holiday classics. Herb roasted turkey with a sage turkey gravy, garlic whipped potatoes and whipped sweet potatoes, traditional cornbread stuffing, and delicious warm rolls. And for dessert, choose between pumpkin pie, pecan pie, or apple galette. Let the Elements serve your family a delicious Thanksgiving feast while you spend the day enjoying family and friends. Prime times fill up quickly. Reserve online today at theelementsrestaurant.com or call 750-5171.
Hi, this is Tyler. Recently, my father passed away, and White Pine provided the funeral services for our family. They were friendly, thoughtful, and attentive to every detail. You know, it isn't often that a loved one passes away, so it was very important to my family that everything be handled just right. Because my dad was loved by so many people, we had a lot of family and friends that traveled from out of town. I really appreciate how White Pine Funeral Services made sure everyone was comfortable and that the focus was where it needed to be, on my dad and my family. They really took care of us during this tender time.
The Aggies are #1 here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back, Full Court Press. Final segment of the show as we get ready to close up shop here. 2305 sending in a couple more texts, Jazz related and NBA related. Yes, how many of the bottom tier teams will actually tank in order to get the number 1 or 2 pick in the lottery? I also says maybe once they identify later in the year, the Jazz are going to make a trade with them, offering multiple picks, draft picks for the future. We were talking about trading The Jazz trading with the Lakers. I think the Jazz should pull off a trade with the Lakers, but obviously takes two to tango in that regard. So we'll see if the Jazz can wring one of the 2027 or 2029 picks out of the Lakers. That'd be amazing. But to answer the other texts, how many lower tier teams are actually going to try and tank? Well, the Jazz and the Spurs were supposed to be a couple of them. The Jazz and the Spurs are both technically in the playoffs right now. I think the Jazz are third in the West, and the Spurs are fifth. So, I don't know what's going on there. They were supposed to be teams tanking. Some other teams look at the bottom of the West. The Clippers are at 11. They're not trying to tank. The Warriors are at 12. They're trying to, repeat as defending champions. Lakers are certainly not trying to tank. They don't even own their own pick this year. The Kings, I never know what the Kings are doing. They try and be good, and they're still bad. So who knows? The Rockets, they've gathered up a bunch of talent. They're trying to build around it. They're 1-8. That one win is actually against the Jazz. They got Jalen Green and others. Plenty of other young talents. So they're trying to build a winning culture with their young core. But obviously if they get another one, they're probably fine with that. On the other end, you have a bunch of other teams that have kind of built up some young talent that might be okay losing. Orlando Magic, Detroit Pistons, they're the bottom two in the East. So we'll see. Bit of other news, Cade Potter, Utah State forward, although no longer Utah State forward. He's no longer on the team. I mentioned I didn't see him at the open practice Saturday ago. And the reason I didn't see him apparently is I thought he maybe just was gone, but he's gone. He's no longer with the team. I'm looking into that, trying to figure out exactly what happened. We'll see if we find anything, if we get any reports. But for now, Utah State, one less player on the basketball team, which could hurt their power forward depth. But that'll do it for us here. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thermo Fisher Scientific is hiring for their manufacturing, distribution, and warehouse team. And that's great news for anyone seeking a reward